Vampire Academy. Author Rochelle Mee. Chapter 2. My hatred notwithstanding, I had to admit Dimitri Bella whatever was pretty smart. After they carted us off to the airport and onto the Academy's private jet, he had taken one look at the two of us, whispering, and ordered us separated. "Don't let them talk to each other," he warned the guardian who escorted me to the back of the plane. 5 minutes together and they'll come up with an escape plan." I shot him a hotly look and stormed off down the aisle. Never mind the fact that we'd been planning to escape. As it was, things didn't look good for our heroes, or heroines, rather. Once we were in the air, our odds of escape dropped further. Even supposing a miracle occurred and I did manage to take out all 10 guardians, we'd sort of have a problem in getting off the plane. I figured there might have been parachutes aboard somewhere, but it's unlikely event I'd been able to operate one. There was still that little issue of surviving, seeing as we'd probably land somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. No, we weren't getting off this plane until it landed in the backwoods of Montana. I had to think of something then, something that involved getting past the Academy's magical wards and 10 times as many guardians. Yeah, no problem. Although Lissa had sat at the front with the Russian guy, her fears sang back to me, pounding inside my head like a hammer. My concern for her cut into my fear. They couldn't take her back there, not to that place. I wondered if Dimitri might have hesitated if he could feel what I did, and if he knew what I knew. Probably not. He didn't care. As it was, her emotions grew so strong that for a moment I had a disorienting sensation of sitting in her seat, in her skin even. It happened sometimes, and without much warning. She pulled me right into her head. Dimitri's tall frame sat beside me, and her hand, gripped a bottle of water. He leaned forward to pick up something, revealing 6 tiny symbols on the back of his neck. Melange marks. They looked like 2 streaks of jagged lightning crossing in an X symbol. One for each Strigo he killed. Above them was a twisted line, sort of like a snake, that marked him as a guardian, the promise mark. Blinking, I fought against her and shifted back into my own head with a grimace. I hated when that happened. Feeling Alyssa's emotion was one thing, but slipping into her was something we both despised. She saw it as an invasion of privacy, so I usually didn't tell her when it happened. Neither of us could control it. It was another effect of the bond, a bond neither of us fully understood. Legends existed about psychic links between guardians and their Mori, but the stories have never been mentioned anything like this. We fumbled through it as best as we could. Near the end of the flight, Dimitri walked back to where I sat and traded places with the guardian beside me. I pointedly turned away, staring out the window absent-mindedly. Several moments of silence passed. Finally he said, "Were you really going to attack us all?" I didn't answer. Doing that, protecting her like that, it was very brave. He paused. "Stupid, but still brave. Why didn't you even try it?" I glanced over at him, brushing my hair out of my face so I could look at him levelly in the eye. "Because I'm her guardian." I turned toward the window. After another quiet moment, he stood up and returned to the front of the jet. When we landed, Alyssa and I had no choice but to let the commandos drive us to the academy. Our car stopped at the gate, and our driver spoke with the guards, who verified we weren't Strigo, about to go off on a killing spree. After a minute, they let us pass through the wards and up to the academy itself. It was around sunset, the start of the vampiric day. The campus lay wrapped in shadows. It probably looked the same, sprawling and gothic. The Moris were big on tradition. Nothing ever changed with them. This school wasn't as old as the ones back in Europe. but it had been built in the same style. The buildings boasted elaborate, almost church-like architecture with high peaks and stone carvings. Wrought iron gates enclosed small gardens and doorways here and there. After living on a college campus, I had a new appreciation for just how much this place resembled a university more than a typical high school. We were on the secondary campus, which was divided into lower and upper schools. Each was built around a large open quadrangle decorated with some stone paths and enormous century-old trees. We were going toward the upper school's quad, which had academic buildings on one side, while Dampire dormitories and in the gym sat opposite. Mori dorm sat on one of the other's ends. The opposite them were the administration buildings, and that also served the lower school. Younger students lived on the primary campus farther to the west. All around all the campuses was space, and more space. We were in Montana, after all, miles away from any real city, and the air felt cool in my lungs and smelled of pine and wet, decaying leaves. Overgrown forests ringed in the perimeters of the academy during the day. You could see mountains rising up in the distance. As we walked into the main part of the upper school, I broke from the guardian and ran up to Dmitri. "Hey, comrade," he kept walking and wouldn't look at me. "You want to talk now? Are you taking us to Kyrova?" Headmistress Kyrova, he corrected. On the other side of him, Lissa shot me a look that said, "Don't start something." Headmistress, whatever. She's still a self-righteous old bitch. My words faded as the guardians led us through a set of doors, straight into the commons. I sighed. Were these people really so cruel? There had been at least a dozen ways to get to Kyrov's office, and they were taking us right through to the center of the commons. And it was breakfast time. Novice guardians, dampires like me and Maury sat together eating, socializing, face alight with whatever current gossip held the academy's attention. When we entered, the loud buzz of conversation stopped instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. Hundreds of sets of eyes swirled towards us. I returned the stares of my former classmates with a lazy grin, trying to get a sense as to whether things had changed. Nope, didn't seem like it. Camille Conta still looked like the prim, perfectly groomed beep I remembered. Still the self-appointed leader of the Academy's Royal Mori cliques. Off to the side, Lissa gawkily near cousin Natalie watched with wide eyes, as innocent and naive as before. And on the other side of the room, well, that was interesting, Aaron. Poor Aaron, who no doubt had his heart broken when Lissa left. His eyes looked as cute as ever, maybe more so now, with the same golden looks that complemented hers so well. His eyes followed her every move. Yes, definitely not over her. It was sad, really, because Lissa had never really been into him. I think she'd gone out with him simply because it seemed like the expected thing to do. But what I found most interesting was that Aaron had apparently found a way to pass the time without her. Beside him, holding his hand, was a Mori girl who looked about 11, but had to be older, unless he'd become a pedophile during our absence. With plump little cheeks and blonde ringlets, she looked like a porcelain doll, a very off and evil porcelain doll. She gripped his hand tightly and shot Lissa a look of such burning hatred that it stunned me. What the hell was all that about? She was no one I knew, just a jealous girlfriend, I guess. I'd be beeped too if my guy was watching someone else like that.